Marta, great to have you back with us once again on your regular monthly slots.
Amazing to be here as always. It seems like I'm in a different location every time we speak.
You do it on purpose. You just move around the flat, right? Move around the apartment just to keep everyone on their toes,
it's a
right?
physical. I think up until now, for a while, it was a physical geographical location that was even different.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get a little bit of consistency now.
You will. For now, it might be a different location around the apartment, but it will be in the same geographical location.
That's perfect.
Finally,
okay,
it took us a while to get here.
Yeah, but you got there in the end, right? And that's a good lesson in and of itself. You know, you always arrive where you want to arrive if you just keep the focus, right?
Yep.
Yeah, good lesson. Okay, so we're going to talk about spiritual prosperity today, right? The thing that everyone gets in a twist about. And I want to start I've been doing a little bit of research for this. And I've been looking at the etymology of the words around prosperity and what they actually mean. Because I think
I like that. Tell me more.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. Words are very powerful. And we build a story around certain words because that's what we learn as we grow and develop. And the biggest stories we have, well, there's kind of three, isn't there? There's around religion, around money, and around sex, right? This is where we really get triggered. This is where we really get kind of confused and upset. A lot of it is because of ignorance. We don't really understand what some of these words mean. So let's look at the root of these words and find out what they actually really mean. Not what we're told they mean, not what the story is around them. And we'll start there and we'll go from there. So I've got 5 words around wealth and prosperity. And I'm going to tell you what they really mean. Okay. The first one, wealth, comes from the root for well-being. So wealth actually means well-being. Okay. The second one is prosperity. This is a great one. It actually means to go forward hopefully.
I love that. I'm going to write that down.
To go forward hopefully. Abundance means fullness. Right. Substance means to stand under. And affluence, which I love as a word, means an abundant flow, or you could say a full flow, flowing fullness, which I love. So that's what these words mean. So with that in mind, looking at all these, why do people get so caught up in the drama of money?
Society, good old society, right? And what certain structures and organizations, not even in the meaning as in an organization, as in a corporation or a business or anything like that. Organizations as in organizational structures, that's probably a better way of saying it, within the society. We agreed at some point that we're going to use something called money, right? And I don't know the history of money, so I'm not going to go there because that's not my field of expertise. But I can share a personal story that, yes, we agreed to use money, which really, truly is just an imagination. It's an imagined a product or a good or whatever you want to call it, right? A thing that not even anymore, it's not even in a physical form, because I was going to say it's in a physical form of paper notes and metal coins, but not even anymore most of the time, right? Because we just use online banking, everything is on the computer screen, and it is just all an imagined kind of a figure or a number that's in your bank account or isn't, and what you then of course mean, what that means to you, what's the meaning, the story that you attach to it. But really truly, when it was just an incredible experience when Cliff and I went traveling in 2011, and we spent about a month in Laos, maybe a little bit less, and traveling through Thailand, then Cambodia, then Vietnam, ending up in Laos. It was like traveling further and further and further back in time.
Right.
And the experience of some of the more modern and more westernized parts of Thailand was just being in a nice, lovely environment, but pretty much just like being at home, right? Parts of Bangkok and certain islands. But then going to Cambodia, then Vietnam, and then Laos, it was just incredible to experience how people still operate, and the influence of those structures, those organizational structures in the Western world, how they started to affect them and the life that they
Right.
were living. So if you think about it, in Laos, in some of the villages that we were visiting, in different parts, people would have really basic, in villages, in tribal villages, and also in the northern part of Thailand, that was the case there as well, but even more so in Laos. People would have very traditional little villages built out of wood or whatever they were building their little houses out of, and animals, pigs rolling in the mud, loads of puppies everywhere, chickens, like a really small community of local tribal people. And on tops of those little houses, you would see satellite dishes here and there.
Right.
And you think, how the hell does that even work? There's not, they don't even have electricity. Like, how are they physically using that, right? That commodity of the Western world. And when we stayed in a beautiful, lovely place with a local couple that built that little retreat resort, kind of 5 bamboo huts themselves on a hill, on the side of the hill, that was in northern Thailand, they were explaining to us what was actually going on, and how these people were being affected by desiring and wanting to bring the commodities like satellite TV, for example, from the Western to their local communities, but they couldn't comprehend and understand that they had to have physical money, as in currency, right, to pay for those commodities on a monthly basis, that there is installments, that there is certain things that they need to do every month to maintain the service provided. They genuinely wanted to pay in rice, because they were still very much used to the exchange of services. If I have rice, you have satellite TV, so I'm going to give you my rice, you're going to give me the dish, and I'll be able to watch Western programs on it, right? Or films, movies, whatever. And it was, I still can't quite work out in my head what I actually thought about it back then, but it was a very shocking experience and very humbling experience for me to understand that it really, truly, before I even understood the power of choice, that it truly is a choice of what we want to bring into our life under the term of prosperity or abundance, or whatever you want to call it for the sake of our conversation today, right? And how you understand it, and based on what you were born with, and the interpretation of obviously family and parents and the immediate community then affect you for the rest of your life, unless you choose to give it a different meaning, right?
Absolutely. And I think the meaning we give it is so very important, right? So my understanding, and again, it's not my zone of expertise, but it kind of ties in with what you said there. So from the year dot, effectively, of civilization, people have had certain skills that other people haven't had. So rather than somebody who can't build a fence going out and trying to build a fence that's going to fall down, they would have the person with the fence building skills build the fence, and they would give them a chicken or two or a goat or whatever. So money, for want of a better word, became a medium of exchange. You do this for me, then I give you this. So you provide me with value with your skills, I provide you with value or something I've got of commensurate value for your work. And that's my understanding of this money thing. No more, no less. Now, it's really interesting because I did an interview the other day, and I was asked how do people stop suffering? And I thought about it for a second and then said, stop adding a narrative to everything. Yeah. We're really good at sitting down or standing up or anything, looking at something that's going on in our lives or in someone else's lives, and adding a story to it, usually to our detriment. And I think that that's what we've done over the years with money. That, that you can, some of the phrases that are used, money doesn't grow on trees, filthy lucre, all sorts of phrases and commonalities.
The root of all evil.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that these narratives we have around this particular subject, really don't serve us, and just aren't true anyway, because money is just an exchange. It's an idea, as you say. It's imagined. It's not real. We're doing transactions at the moment in shops that's mostly contactless. No money hardly is changing hands at the moment. So it's just an idea. And I think once we start to get used to this, we can start to look at it in different ways and maybe, hopefully, change the narrative.
Absolutely. And it is a choice. And I understand that some people might find it really frustrating, but handing over the responsibility to someone for them to actually choose what it is that they want to do with a certain circumstance or a situation is a very daunting thing to do, very much so for majority of us. And I've been there myself as well. And it was probably one of the most painful at times experiences, but the most rewarding long-term and life-changing long-term as a result of it. Because when we realize that life truly is meaningless and anything to do with prosperity, wealth, and abundance has no meaning until and unless we add a meaning to it, our personal meaning. So, and we have to add that meaning for us to be able to experience it. But if we know that there has to be that meaning attached to it for us to be able to experience it in the three-dimensional world that we live in, we get to then understand that we have a choice of what meaning we're going to add to that event, a circumstance, or a word, be it prosperity, right? Or a state of being prosperous or abundant or wealthy. We have a choice of adding a meaning to it. And if our parents will tell us continuously, as we were growing up, money doesn't grow on trees, or we don't have a lot, or it's hard to come by, or it's the root of all evil, and we realize in our adult life that it's screwing us over and we're not living the life that we desire, well, it's only you yourself who can choose to do something about it. And it does take work, personal commitment, and time, effort, and very often money going into it to learn from other people on that energetic exchange. Someone provides you a service, you pay for it. But we get to remember that money is just the most widely accepted mean of exchanging that energy, right? Service for currency. But there's so many other currencies. There is a physical currency. So if someone builds you a fence, you can go and do something else physical for them and exchange energy that way. It could be emotional currency. It could be whatever you choose for it to be. It just happens to be that over the years, we as humans agreed on money, physical currencies being the main value and the main energy and currency of exchanging services between us. But the core of it is really that if we feel like our associations and the meanings and the stories we are adding to certain words or states of being are not helping us live the life that we want to live, that we say we want to live, we get to explore and do something about it and shift that perception and shift that story, because nobody else can do that for us.
And I also think that we build a story around the people that have money. So that, you know, we understand fundamentally that, you know, in this 3D world, this relative world that we live in, we need a certain standard of, you know, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, we need safety, we need security, we need sustenance, you know. So to do that, to have a roof over our heads, to wear clothes, to put food on the table, and to have a certain standard of living means we have to have a certain income. So we have money coming in, and it should be applauded. It's not a bad thing. You know, it's not something that we should try and, you know, avoid talking about or thinking about. You know, we need to make sure these fundamental bases are covered, that these basics, this safety, this security is covered, because only then are we able to start to move up the scale and move towards a sense of self-actualization, where we are able to express ourselves fully as an abundant human being. And this is where I think it gets all confused, because we look at things like abundance as just money, but it's not. It's a state of being. Everything is
nothing to do with that, right?
Exactly.
I heard years ago now, and it really stuck with me, and I love that it did, because it changed my perspective on abundance entirely. I heard someone say, abundance has nothing to do with physical money or physical wealth, as in financial wealth. Abundance is our ability to do what we need to do when we need to do it. And we always have a choice. So we always can do what we need to do in that moment. It could be a variety of or spectrum within the circumstances that we're in. But we talked about it in one of our previous conversations, that we always have a choice we swim within the ocean of influence. I think it was James Hollis. We talked about that, right? We swim within the ocean of influence, but we making choices within that influence every day.
Yeah.
So we're being abundant naturally at all times and in all different ways, in terms of the fact that we can sit with ourselves, decide what we want to do, and do what we need to do in that moment. And that's abundance, and that changes everything.
I think it does. And you know, what got me onto this subject today, I was reading a book and I came across a quote from Walt Whitman, and I found it quite profound, actually. And he said, "Oh, while I live, to be the ruler of life, not a slave, to meet life as a powerful conqueror, and nothing exterior to me shall ever take command of me." So I thought that was a strong quote, and it's got some very strong words in: to be the ruler of life, not a slave, to meet life as a powerful conqueror. But here's the sentence, the little bit of this that just kind of got things flowing: nothing exterior to me shall ever take command. Right? So that's what you talk about when you talk about responsibility. That's what you talk about when you talk about choice, that you have a responsibility and you have a choice. And when you use those for their fullest expression, you become a person of substance, you become a person of abundance, you become a prosperous person, which, as we say, is just a state of being, right?
Absolutely. And wealth, for well-being, like what you said right at the beginning, right? So many of us forget about everything other than the physical money in your bank account, or lack of money in your bank account. When it comes to wealth, a true wealth is your understanding that when you have an awareness of something, you can take responsibility and follow with a different action to have a different result. Yeah. That you can do something about any and every aspect of your well-being, be it finances, very much so. Financial well-being is very important, right? Because if we are not in a position that we can cover, like what you said, the basic human needs, we can't ever really, we talked about it again during lockdown, right? That people were being really hard on themselves, not doing all the things that they wanted to do because they thought they had all the time in the world, not working and being on lockdown, being at home. But if the financial means weren't there, or to the degree that were satisfactory to cover their basic means and the basic needs, it's very difficult for us to start talking and thinking about self-development and growth and self-actualization and pondering on the meaning of life, where you're in the shit and can't feed yourself or your kids. It's very difficult, right? So financial well-being is very important, but we also get to take responsibility as to why we might be in financial difficulties and what are the decisions that we made that got us to that point. And what is it that we can do to start shifting that, right? But outside of just finances, there's so much more. There is our physical health, there is our emotional health, there is our social interactions and relationships with other people, what we do for a living to actually satisfy those financial well-being needs. All of these aspects are very often overlooked, and people don't even consider them as part of wealth, because that's not what we told from the moment we're born. It's all about money, it's all about finances, it's all about for most of us, money being really hard to come by and all of that stuff, right? It's only the other day where a beautiful memory came up from 2 years ago when we were on one of our trips to Colombia. We go every year on the retreat, take our clients to the retreat center there that we're working with, but also we support a school, an incredible school that actually, other than just teaching kids the regular subjects, maths and whatever, they teach them spirituality, entrepreneurship. Nice. They teach them to take responsibility for life, for their life, to be the best version of themselves. It's amazing to watch. But unfortunately, that school isn't supported by the government. It relies on donations. It relies on the founders of the school providing the financial means for the school. And we've been working with these guys since 2016. And I remember someone saying to me at some point a few years ago, "Oh, money is the root of all evil." And I'm like, is it? Fuck. Over the last several years, the difference that we were able to make as an example to the kids at the school, utilizing our own donations, our own funds, loads of our clients supported the school over the years through different ventures, programs, and fun stuff that we did. One year, I think it was 2018, we we raised enough money within, it was meant to be 24 hours, but we did it in 5. I just had that crazy idea. We're going to get every single kid in the school, and there was 900 of them at the time, a box of chocolate as a little gift from Cliff and Marta and their community. And I wanted to raise the money for within 24 hours, and we did it in 5.
Nice.
It was just amazing to see all the little kids waving to the camera and saying thank you to everybody that made it happen for them. And it's just like, what do we consider abundance, right? The fact that we bought heaters for the pool in the school, and the kids can now swim and learn to swim in warm water rather than freezing cold, that they have laptops, PA system for their school, all of that, that's abundance, right? That's through the financial flow that we've created towards the school. But the wealth and the abundance and the prosperity of how I feel talking about it, how every single one of these guys that contributed to that being possible, how they feel about it, that's the true wealth. That's the true prosperity.
It is, and it sets off a ripple effect, doesn't it? You know, when we do things that are altruistic in nature, or charitable in nature, it's not about, it's about everything. It's that full embodiment of wealth or abundance, right? That there's an abundance of love, there's an abundance of good feeling, there's an abundance of help. It's all in there. It's interesting you mentioned the phrase "money is the root of all evil." Probably the most misquoted quote ever, because the actual quote says the love of money is the root of all evil, but that's obviously been taken out to make it
a little bit more appropriate to wiring and conditioning everyone to think.
So this is why I'm a big lover
it's not good to have it.
Exactly. And this is why I say to people, you know, do your due diligence. You know, if there's something you want in your life, look at it, look at all aspects of it. You know, find out why you tell yourself these stories. Where do these stories come from? Because the life you're living is a conglomerate of all the conditioning you've had over your years. But more than that, it's the conditioning your parents had and your grandparents had. You're not living your life. You're living someone in the past idea of how life should be lived. And it's a mixed match of all of that. And you need to be brave enough. You need to be responsible enough to just step back a moment and say, okay, what's really going on here? You know, why do I think that? Where's that thought come from? How is it going to serve me? What can I replace it with? It's kind of like that Byron Katie stuff, isn't it? The work.
And it's understanding that when we choose to replace a story, it's not just a click of a finger and we get the exact opposite and we start believing in it. It's a process, because if we've been living 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of our life believing that money is bad, or that, for the sake of conversation, right, we talked a lot about money and financial wealth and prosperity, but anything, it could be our health, it could be our ability to be in a loving relationship, it could be an ability to truly feel passionate about something and do it because it gives us such pleasure, right? It could be a story around the inability to do or have anything. And when we start shifting and changing those, we get to go very often at a pace of, 1%, 1 degree at a time, and continuously reviewing with ourselves. Because when we don't have any feedback, and we tell ourselves, okay, I used to believe that money is the root of all evil. Now I believe money is amazing and I'm expecting all money to come to me. It's just not going to happen. Because the moment you say to yourself, and when people start using affirmations, for example, and they're like, I love money, or I love myself in the mirror, or I love my body, and they fucking hate it still on a subconscious level, and the body cringes, whether you talk about your own body, love, abundance in terms of money, or whatever else it might be, it's never going to work. Because that way we're only reaffirming and confirming the old story, strengthening that even more so. Because every time there is that repulsion coming from the physical body, when a mind and a brain receive that information of complete opposite that we just don't believe in, it's never going to work. That's why so many people believe that affirmations are bullshit, but it's not that. when you know how to work that process, when you understand how shifting and changing beliefs and stories truly works, you know that if you believe money is bad and you want to believe money is good, you don't just go and say to yourself in the mirror 15 times every hour that money is good, because you're just not going to believe in it. How about breaking it down and going, what is it that I can possibly believe in today that's different to just plainly thinking money is bad? So could it be that you can believe in the fact that money is providing you certain aspects of your life that bring you pleasure? So for example, allows you to go on holiday, or allows you to buy a good book, or go for a drink or dinner with someone, other than obviously just your basic needs like your bills and the house or place that you live in. Could you believe in the fact that actually money is good for those purposes, to give you those things, bigger or smaller, that bring you pleasure, and without money you wouldn't be able to have them, and your brain starts ticking and your subconscious mind starts opening up to receiving a different truth when you consciously go, okay, is this possible? Can I believe in that? And your body doesn't have that repulsive reaction to it. You start becoming more curious. Go and say that to yourself, whether in meditation or in the mirror, and pay attention to how your body responds, because before you know it, you create that new truth. That's not money is bad. It's not yet money is good, but it's already a step ahead and away from what you don't want and closer to what you do want.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And you know, you said the word I love there, receiving, because I think a lot of people's resistance, if you like, around money, around financial abundance, and around a lot of abundance, let's be honest, is because they're not open to receiving. And I liken it to if you take someone for a coffee, right, and you say, oh, I'll get these. And rather than just saying, that's really kind of you, thank you, people will argue about it. No, I can't let you do that, I'll do that. Because people just won't receive. There seems to be a block about taking on board someone else's energy, someone else's kindness, someone else's money. And I think until that people are okay with the aspect of, it's not selfish to receive something. Yeah. It's a natural state, right? And it doesn't mean that you're always on the take, let's say. It just means that this time you're open to receiving. And the other side of that is that you'll give. And I think that this is really, really, really important. And the other thing that I picked up out of this, and this is something that I work on a lot with people, is we always put, when we're talking about financial, we always put the word only in front of it, right? So I only earn this amount for that. I only got one client from this marketing campaign. I only was able to lift 20 kilos today, right? So we're automatically shutting down our ability to receive. We're shutting down our belief about what we can accept, and we're shutting down gratitude, which is a real biggie when it comes to wealth, right?
And gratitude and appreciation, whichever word resonates with you more, is such a beautiful place to be, and a beautiful feeling and emotion to experience. But so many of us, like you said, just shut themselves off immediately by either saying only this or that, or saying, oh, I've done well with this today, but whatever follows the word but is just like only. It cancels everything you said that you think you're grateful for, but whatever you just said is cancelled by the word but. So even paying attention to what follows. Oh, I did really well in the gym today, even though I've had a long break, which is probably going to be the case for most of us this coming weekend when gyms reopen, right? Because we're recording it like a few days before gyms reopen. I only did this, or I did this, but this happened after. Pay attention. Like when, again, that's part of the responsibility taking. When we pay attention to the words that we use, we can transform and change how we receive the information, the spoken word that we think we speak those words out, but everything that comes out is really reverberating within us. So we're hearing what we're saying, right? So there is almost like a double loop where whatever we're saying is already preconditioned by our stories, but then we hear it as we say it, so we reinforce the story.
Reinforce the story, yeah.
So how can we shift that flow and go, okay, even if you've already said something that's not very useful to creating a new belief, literally just say in your mind, all right, loud, cancel that, reframe it. That's conditioning. And as much as you go to the gym and you might change your technique slightly in a certain, whether you do a squat, a deadlift, whatever, bench press, you do certain things to condition yourself in order to be able to lift heavier with better technique and have a better result of whatever it is that you're doing. It's the same thing with language that we're using. It's constantly either reinforcing what we don't want, or if we take responsibility and we change how we speak about certain things, we can shift whatever that information is being received as and the meaning behind it, that is then starting to get that conditioning away from what we don't want towards what we do want. And it's, again, it requires that physical effort for us to remember, oh shit, I said something that I don't really believe in anymore, but it kind of falls out of my mouth on autopilot. Or I keep saying this, why am I doing that? What would I want to replace it with? And even if we've already said it, go cancel that, reframe. And then before you know it, you don't even say those things that you used to say. Like certain things, I'm struggling for a specific example now, but there are certain things that I just can't bring myself to say anymore. I just won't say them. Sometimes I might still remember what I used to say around a certain situation, but because I've changed the meaning and reframed it over the years, it just doesn't happen anymore.
I can give you a great example, actually. High intensity intervals, conditioning type stuff. I've always had not the best relationship with that kind of training. So I used to use words like, oh, I really don't like XYZ, like the Stairmaster. I really don't like sprints on the treadmill. And I thought to myself, I teach people, you know, to be very, very mindful and very conscious about the language they use so that they can enhance the experience they get in life. And here I am saying, I don't like this, right? Okay. You have to kind of be able to recognize these patterns in yourself. And it all comes from being aware, right?
Exactly. Think about what I just did just before. And I wonder if anyone picked up on that, because I said, I'm struggling for an example here. Am I struggling? I'm sitting in my relatively comfy chair, having a chat. I'm not really struggling with anything in that moment. But how my brain is receiving is that there's something difficult going on. No, I just, in this moment in time, I just can't remember or connect to any specific example to make it more specific to the conversation we're having. It's not really a struggle. But if I choose to tell myself I'm struggling, I'm not just saying to the world, oh, I can't find an example right now. I'm telling myself I'm struggling with something. Cancel that. I just couldn't find an example.
There you go. It's perfect. We're learning ourselves as we go along, Marta,
exactly.
Right?
Always, all day, every day.
Always. What I'm really keen on explaining to people, especially clients and people I speak to often, is that under no circumstances does our current circumstances determine what's coming or what we can do, or what we can achieve, how successful we can become. I think that people look at what's going on around them, especially their bank account, and they look and see what they've got in there or haven't got in there, however it looks, and they think that's my worth, therefore I can't do X, Y, Z. And I think that this is where people need the most help.
And again, some people will be very opposing to this and going, but it just doesn't work like that. I've got a client in California that I spoke to in the middle of last week, and these guys have just been put into lockdown again. So no restaurants, nothing, just grocery stores. I'm even speaking American now.
Yes, the sidewalk and grocery stores.
Exactly. Yeah. And trash cans.
Yeah.
Or garbage bins. Anyway, I asked him to take himself out on a date because he really feels like it's time for him to reconnect with females and bring more female energy into his life. He's not been dating for a while. He really wants to start dating again and connecting with women. And I said to him, when is the last time that you actually took yourself on a date, as in spend some quality time with yourself? And he's like, I don't remember. So that is the first thing you're doing before you even consider the other aspects that you might still be a little bit uncomfortable with. Do that first. Give yourself to yourself. By yourself. You are giving that to yourself first before you invite anything from anybody else into your life so you can receive it from them. If we can't receive whatever we want from ourselves first, we won't be able to receive it from another person. That's a different aspect of it. But the reason I mentioned it is that I wanted him to go out for dinner, but he couldn't.
Because
so
everything's locked down, right?
Yeah. Exactly. He picked up a drink of some sort. I can't remember what it was. It must have been kombucha or something like that if it's in California. But he picked up something that he really enjoyed and took himself for a long walk by the beach and sent me a couple of pictures like, oh my God, this is so amazing. So within the restriction of the current circumstances of what we believe is or isn't possible, he still made it work. So it goes back again to what we talked about earlier, ocean of influence around us all day, every day. But within that influence, we still make choices.
Yeah.
So what would be the alternative for him? I can't go anywhere, playing the victim of circumstances. We're in lockdown. It's just not going to happen. I'm just going to sit at home and feel sorry for myself. He didn't do that, right? Okay, maybe he would have preferred to go for a lovely meal by himself and enjoy the experience and just be a witness to what comes up, sensations, feelings, emotions, thoughts, whatever, around being out in a restaurant on his own. That wasn't necessarily possible in that moment because of lockdown. However, he was able to do a different version of that still gave him an incredible insight into his thoughts and emotions around how he's feeling about even being on his own in his own company. And that was the invaluable thing that actually we wanted to get out of that process.
And I think it's an invaluable example as well, because as I say, there'll be people listening to this who I know who say to me, yeah, but I've only got X, Y, Z. Again, only, yeah, but I've only. You can, no matter where you are, whatever situation you find yourself in, there will be something you can do for yourself that will improve you in some way. Be it improve your mental state, be it improve your physical state, be it improve your emotional state. It doesn't matter. You'll be able to do something, even if it's take yourself for a walk in the park and just be with nature for a while. And it's those little things that you do, they add up. And if you, as I say, as I keep saying, if you don't add a story to it, if you just be and walk, you'll be amazed at what comes up for you. Little idea here, little opportunity there. I must speak to this person. When you get those nudges, follow them, because that's
always,
that's yourself talking to yourself. Your self-capital S talking to yourself, lowercase s, right?
Exactly. And it's literally this morning, we were recording an amazing conversation with a good friend of ours who is a walking coach. Nice. Walking in general and Nordic walking and stuff like that. And for one of our programs, we were talking about different types of movements for the women that are part of the program, because most of them have been screwed themselves over with the perception of how to move their bodies or how to be active or whatever that means to them. So we're bringing different experts into the program to have a conversation with them, to answer questions about different types of movement. And walking for the sake of walking because you want to lose weight or whatever, all right, you can do that, but how do you really feel doing this? But when you actually walk because you connect to nature, connect to the environment around you, we talked about how powerful it is to literally just go out, even if you're living in the middle of the city and you have a little square somewhere with a few trees, even being there, barefoot on the grass, how beautifully that reconnects you and calms you down and just allows you to create that space to process whatever challenge that might be coming up for you. You're actually facing it at the time, right? But then if we explore walking, and we talked about purpose and intention behind something like walking, for example, and then the beautiful paradox of life that the purpose and intention sometimes might be no purpose, just to walk, right? Yeah. Sometimes it could be exploring new environment, doing a 5K loop around the neighborhood, but sometimes it will be I'm just going to walk. That's it. And when we do that, all the other stuff that people might want, like, oh, more money or lose weight or improve my body type or my health or whatever that, when we talk specifically about walking as an example, we might tie into that. That becomes a beautiful side effect. That's not even the main point of focus.
Yeah, I love that example, and I've used it myself before. I use it for myself all the time, because I see people when I'm out walking, And they always stop me and say, "You're always walking." I say, "Yeah, because that's where I have all my ideas.
Yeah.
I have ideas. It helps me create something. It helps someone else. I get paid. Why wouldn't you walk?" So I have people come to, "I need to earn more money. How do I earn more money?" And they're astounded when I say,
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Go for a walk. The neuroscience is quite clear. You know, you secrete chemicals, chemicals and peptides, brain-derived neurotropic factor, et cetera, that enhance learning, that calm you down, that get rid of that chattering negative voice in you and open yourself to intuition, creativity, imagination. It's a no-brainer. And it's free, it's cheap, and everyone can do it.
Absolutely. Unless, last year, unless you fall down the stairs because there's no lights and you screw your ankle and then you're like floored for a couple of weeks. That was horrendous for me, for example, last year. But again, at the same time, when I was floored literally for a couple of weeks without being able to move properly, that gave me the space that I needed at the time, because actually movement in that moment in my life, so paying attention to everything that happens for us, right? For us, not to us. I needed that space of just not moving much, because I needed to go within and have the thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions come up for me to reconsider certain aspects of our lives. So even if we challenged because we might not be able to walk because we are injured, is then going, okay, within that limited circumstance of what I can physically do, what can I do? Okay, I can maybe sit and do a meditation, learn to meditate, or I can maybe sit and read a book, or I can maybe sit and just do nothing and allow myself to become so uncomfortable with all the mind chatter that's kind of falling to the wayside when we can be moving everywhere and doing all the things and keeping ourselves busy. That could be a gift in itself. So it is just in each and every circumstance and situation we find ourselves in our life, it's understanding that if it's a challenge and if it is frustrating, we get to allow ourselves to feel that frustration first. But when we go, okay, I'm really pissed off that I can't walk because I hurt myself, eventually when you allow yourself to feel that frustration rather than actually pretending everything's okay, it wasn't for me in September last year when that happened, but I allowed myself to literally feel sorry for myself for a couple of days. But because I let myself do that, because it was coming up and showing up for me, after 2 days I was done. Fine. What can I do with this situation right now that's actually useful?
Absolutely, because if you resist that, it just persists, right? And it goes
on.
Oh
yeah, it will.
And on.
But
and
like
on.
Going back to what we were saying, like even if the goal and the objective of something like walking, for example, is to lose weight, and that's the only reason why we walk, you can't let yourself lose weight, because then you lose your purpose of walking.
Yeah, exactly.
So life becomes purposeless, right? So knowing that we're doing it for so much more richness emotionally and physically, not just from the perspective of I want to lose weight or whatever it is, there's so much more to it. The things that we actually want to get out of it, they just start coming in, like I said, as a beautiful byproduct and a beautiful side effect of what we're doing.
And you know, that's a really relevant point again, Marta, because we've gone on for 45 minutes approximately here.
Way.
Right? I know, right? Insane, as always. And we're talking about spiritual prosperity, wealth, money, abundance, affluence, whatever. And we've not actually told people how to earn money. But what we've spoken about, if people start to extrapolate what we've spoken about and start doing some of the things and attach to them, be them, right? Not give them a story, just become them, just sit with them, you're pretty much going to guarantee that people will have ideas or meet someone or strike up a conversation or buy a book that gives them this inspiration to do something that will increase their monetary value, let's say, because that's how it works. I've always found that if you go at something with the idea of earning money, what you're actually saying is, I haven't got any money, I'm coming from a lack mentality, and actually that sense of desperation is going to seep into everything I do, and no one's going to buy anything I do anyway.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating, an exercise that's why I ran out before we started recording to grab my iPad, that I wanted to share something that one of my mentors did with me and Cliff, 2018, I think it was. And it was such an incredible realization, and it can allow people to actually, rather than just hear what we're saying, rather than just listen to what we're saying, actually hear it and do something that will give them the result that we're talking about, of the feeling, that different approach and attitude towards wealth, abundance, whatever, affluence, whatever you want to call it. Is imagine that there was no money, no job that you needed to do. Money didn't exist, and that exchange of monetary value didn't exist in the world. What would you be actually getting out of bed for? Like, what would make you get out of bed? And I know it sounds pretty cliche and stuff, but hear me out here, because it's not just about go and do that thing now and that's how you should be earning money because that's spiritually aligned way. It's not even about that. It's about being able to bring that feeling, that sensation, that state of being to ourselves without even thinking about money, from so many different aspects of our life that we can't even think of when we're so stuck on thinking about money. So why would you be getting out of bed? Like, what would it be? The reason, the purpose, why you would get out of bed in the morning if money didn't exist? You didn't need to earn any more money ever again. Didn't have to go to work. And probably a lot of people will have some quite reflective moments going on now, because a lot of these guys would have had those months of isolation and lockdown where they probably questioned some of those things, right?
Yeah,
and when you realize that it could be the breeze or the sun, or just walking in the sun on the beach, or walking your favorite path in the city, wherever you are in the world, those things, ask yourself, what is it, that feeling that I'm looking for, that those things give me? And for me, I realized it was joy. And I was like, holy shit, okay. So what you do, it was experiences, all about experiences for me. So doing different things, even without money, going to certain places, experiencing nature, whatever it might be, right? So for me, it was joy. So you whack joy in the middle of a piece of paper, and I drew a little sun, and the sun rays were guiding me to all the things that bring me joy, but it could be done in any other way. So the feeling, so I get up for experiences, right? I would like to feel joy. That's what drives me. So I know what the feeling is. So that goes in the middle. And then we're thinking about all the different things that bring me joy that I can do any day, at any time. And now it doesn't necessarily have to be without money, because you're coming back to the here and now. So I've got driving or wine or writing, hosting events, food, traveling, walks, coffee, speaking, music, painting, pretty things, whatever that means, right? So certain aspects of the things that bring me joy, like if I like driving, I get to have a car and I get to put petrol in it, right? To be able to do it. So that involves money. But I can pick up a piece of paper, even if I didn't have any money for the rest of my life, I would still have enough ink in my pen for a few weeks, probably, to be able to write, right? I'm just spinning it, trying to be a little bit more jovial with it. But writing is free. I'm pretty much convinced that everyone will have a pen or a pencil or something. So if writing brings me joy, I'm going to sit down and write at any point. If I don't feel quite right, don't feel prosperous, abundant in whatever way, shape, or form, I bring that back to myself. What is it that drives me in life? Experiences. What is it that I want to feel because of those experiences is joy. So in this moment in time, which one of these resonates the most? So do I feel like painting something? I'll go and paint something. Do I feel like I want to go for a walk? Do I want to make a nice coffee or go for a coffee? All of these things that bring me joy are always there for me to tap into. And every time you tap into that and do one of those things, you immediately lift up yourself, your essence, your energy, how you feel, and open up space for other possibilities and opportunities, and therefore shift yourself from perhaps being a victim, feeling sorry for yourself, to actually starting to go, okay, this is what I get to take responsibility for, and that's what I'm going to do.
Wow, I love that. That's that is truly sensational, and I think that's something that anyone can do. No matter who you are, wherever you are in your life, whatever's going on, that's an exercise that you can do. Yeah, and if you give yourself to it, do it, and let Marta and I know how you get on.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
I have to see what you come up with, right? Draw diagrams and send them to us. That'd be amazing. Marta, look, we've done almost 50 minutes again, and it's just flown by on a subject that I just dropped on you literally a minute before we went on the air, right? And as always, you've been amazing, and I've got a paper full of points, and people will get tremendous value out of yet another podcast with yourself. So thank you very much for joining me once again and bringing the fire that you do.
Thank you for having me. Always
It's
fun.
an absolute pleasure. And I'll speak to you again very soon.